Hello and welcome to today's session with me, Sue from Fit Panda Pilates. We're going to be running this session at an advanced beginner level, and all you'll be needing is your mat. If you know, however, that you struggle to sit upright on the floor, I would suggest that you already go ahead and grab either a small hand towel or even a cushion to sit on when we're in our seated position on the mat. So from there, we're going to start by standing up nice and tall. Feet are hip width apart, and we're actually just going to stay standing for a little while. So we're going to straighten out the arms next to the body and think about just opening the chest, becoming nice and light through the shoulders. And we're going to start to sway the weight forward into the front of your feet. So I'm going to lean into my toes until it feels like your heels become very light, as if they could lift up off the mat. And then we'll sway backwards so that you're leaning into your heels until your toes feel very light. And you'll feel that as you sway, so you can continue to sway forward and back, different muscles are going to start to engage in your body to stop you from falling. And just kind of listen to your body and feel what it is that needs to turn on to stop you from falling. So it'll be something in the legs, a little bit of core engagement, swaying forward and back. Go as far as you feel kind of secure that you're not actually going to fall. And then we'll bring the weight spread out evenly through the feet, so from the toes through to the heels. Soften into the knees and take a deep breath in as we bring the head forward to look at the toes. Then we'll roll down through the spine, keeping the softness in the knees. We're going to roll as far down as your back allows. Let the arms just hang, let the neck feel nice and long. Take a breath at the bottom. And then start to restack the spine on your exhale breath. We're going to roll back up vertebra for vertebra. Last thing to lift will be your head so that we can lengthen up tall again back in our starting position with that broadness through the chest and the arms lengthened down beside your body. We're going to repeat the whole process, but now with the eyes closed. So stay standing as you are, but close your eyes. It's going to feel a little bit more scary now as you lean the weight forward into the toes, going as far as you feel you can go before you fall, and then leaning into your heels as much as you can, letting the toes become light. And with the eyes closed, you're going to have to listen to your body a little bit more. You don't have that kind of visual feedback to help you out anymore. It's all about feeling which muscles need to engage and how far you can lean forward and back. If you do feel like you're going to fall, just open the eyes just to check where you are in space. Let's go one more time each way, swaying forward and back. And then we'll settle the weight through the feet again, so equal pressure from the toes through to the heels. I'm going to keep my eyes closed as we bring the head forward. Inhale there. And exhale, let's roll down, softening the knees with closed eyes. So you can't actually see where you are in space, but imagine where you are. Kind of visualize inside your mind what you would look like as you roll forward over your legs. Then still with the eyes closed, let's try to shift the weight into your toes a little bit more before we take a breath. And roll back up with eyes closed and with the weight in your toes. So you always got that feeling of almost falling forward as you restack your spine. Only once your head has lifted and your legs have straightened will we open the eyes up again to look out in front. Then we'll stay standing. I'm going to keep my toes hip width apart so they stay where they are, but we're going to swing the heels in towards each other. Tuck the tailbone in and then interlace your fingers and place them behind the back of your head. So I've gone into like a first position, ballet position there with my feet. I'd like the legs to be straight and squeezing together, ideally with the heels touching, but if your heels don't quite touch, that's okay. There can be a little bit of space, but we're going to keep that rotation of the heels in towards each other and relax the shoulders. From there, the weight's going to go into the toes so that we can do a little bit of balancing. So we're going to exhale to float the heels up as high as you feel secure and then gently lower them back down to tap the mat. As you lift the heels, try to keep the heels rotated in towards each other. So try to keep them touching or as close together as possible. We lift and we lower. We're going to go for 7 more, rising and lowering. Keep your gaze looking straight out in front of you as opposed to down at the floor, because I want to keep that neck nice and straight. Use your core to help you balance. Keep drawing your abdominals in as always in Pilates. And let's go for 4 more. And 3. And keep your breath flowing for 2. Heels lightly touch the mat. And 1. Then I'm going to lower the heels. We'll keep the hands as they are, but we're going to open the feet out a little bit wider than your hips now. So they're still externally rotated. I still have the toes a little bit wider than the heels, but I've kind of stepped out into almost a squat position here with the feet. I'm going to draw in through the abdominals. Tuck your tailbone in slightly just to avoid arching the spine. We're just trying to keep a neutral shape to the spine, and we're going to go into your balancing again. So weight goes into the toes and heels lift, and gently coming back down. I'm not going forward though, I'm trying to go up. Of course you'll have to go slightly forward when the heels lift, but try to keep the weight over your heels as opposed to just leaning forward. And let's go for 7 more. And 6, and it's just a tap of the heels, and 5, and 4, really warming up those ankles, and 3, and 2, and your last one, lifting the heels. We'll lower the heels back down after that last one, releasing the arms. I'm going to bring my left arm down onto my left thigh and take the right arm up overhead as I lean over to the side for a side stretch. The right palm is facing down towards my ear. So this is just a pure side stretch. Then from there, I'm going to start to rotate, twist myself so that the chest faces down towards my left foot. Your right arm will come with you. It's just going to stay in line with your head. Then we'll go back into the side stretch. So you'll face the front of the room again, and then lift everything back up, switch the arms and go over to the other side. So side stretch on the other side of the body. Then we'll add that rotation, turning your chest to look towards your right foot. Come back to face the front of the room again into your side stretch, and then lift everything up, and let's do it one more time each way. So side stretch first. I've got my left hand on my leg for a little bit of support, and then we add the rotation. So this is going to go a little bit more into your back as you rotate, getting a bit of a stretch through your back muscles. Then we go back into the pure side stretch, lift up, switch the arms, and go over to the other side. Then let's rotate and look down towards your foot. Go back to the side stretch and lift everything back up through to the center. Then we'll take a step forward with one of your feet into a little lunge position so that we can gently lower down onto your knees. And then we'll set up for your cat-cow stretch. So I'm in a 4-point kneeling position, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Now, if you find that your wrists don't like this position, if it's too much flexion for your wrists, and you have a towel with you, grab the towel. You can have it folded up once or twice, depending on how much support you need, and just have the heel of your hand on the towel with the rest of the hand off the edge of the towel. It's going to make the angle of your wrist a little bit less extreme so that it feels a bit more comfortable. However, if you didn't have a problem on your hands and knees, you don't need to use the towel. From there, we're going to take a breath in and we're going to round into our cat stretch. So I'm going to tuck the tailbone in, lift up through the abdominals, and then let's lengthen back out into our neutral spine, thinking shoulders out the ears and just a slight arch to the lower back as you breathe in. And then exhale, we go again into your cat stretch. So I'm not only pushing through the hands here, I'm pushing down through my shins as well. I'm kind of pressing into the shins and the ankles. Then we lengthen out on the inhale, gently arch the spine, and go one more time, moving within a comfortable range for your back in this little warm-up flow. Then we'll lengthen back out again, and we're going to come to lie down on our stomachs. So if you were using the wrist support, you can just move it out the way, so that we can lie down on our tummies. Legs are out behind you about hip width apart, so a little bit of space between the legs. And I'm going to take my arms into a wide goalpost position. So your forearms are parallel to one another, but I do have my elbows a little bit lower than my shoulders. They're not in line with the shoulders here. Palms of the hands resting down on the floor, and I've got them so wide that they are off the edge of the mat here. So most likely yours will also be off the edge of the mat to create that wide shape. Then we'll support from the abdominals, lift the navel towards the spine, think shoulders away from the ears, and I'm starting with my nose just hovering off the mat. Then I want the arms to feel very light, as if they're just kind of resting on water, so you can't really press down through the arms. As you start to lengthen through your spine, you're going to inhale for the head and the chest to start to float up off of the mat. And then the arms become so light that they also just start to float off the floor, off your little imaginary water surface. Then the arms come to rest again, and you lower yourself back down to look at your mat. The legs are staying as they are. So I'm going to inhale, lengthen to lift head, chest, and then the arms. The arms just float off the floor, and then we come all the way down again, arms, chest, and head. Try to keep your forearms parallel to the floor when they lift. So I'm not lifting my elbow higher than my hand. And we inhale, we go for 3 more to lift, parallel arms, float up, and exhale down. Last 2. Inhale, lift, keeping that articulation nice and smooth, so your head will be slightly higher than your shoulders. It is the top section of your spine. And the last one, inhale to float up with your arms, and exhale to come back down. Now this time, we are going to plant the hands into the floor. So I'm going to press my hands firmly into the floor. It's not water anymore. It's a solid surface. You're going to do the same movement with the head and the chest starting to lift. And then you're going to grip with your hands into the floor and imagine that you're trying to pull your chest forward and through your arms to get a little bit more height so that you can become proud through your chest. And then exhale, everything can come back down. Then we'll go hands under the shoulders to push back into your rest position, taking the sitting bones back towards your heels. I've got the arms stretched out in front of me, but if that's not comfortable for your shoulders, you can bend your elbows. Taking 2 deep breaths here in your recovery position. And then after that, we'll come up, bring the legs around in front of you to come and lie down on your back. We're going to set up for a pelvic curl. So lying in the middle of your mat, feet hip width apart on the floor, and the arms are lengthened down beside the body, palms facing down with a nice broadness through the chest. So I'm pressing down slightly into the back of the arms. And before you move anywhere, just kind of check your setup, that you feel like you're in the center, in your neutral shape, and that your knees and your feet are the same distance from each other. We're going to take a deep breath in to prepare. On the exhale, start to tuck the pelvis towards you, lift your pelvis, and let's peel up through the spine into your bridge. Coming up, we're still keeping the tuck of the tailbone, so squeeze the glutes, grip the feet firmly into the mat as if you were trying to pull your feet towards your body. Take a breath in, and then roll back down through the center of your spine. Vertebra for vertebra, last thing to touch down will be your pelvis. Then you come back to neutral, and we're going to repeat. Breathe in, exhale, tuck the pelvis, lift and roll your way up through your spine till we're up in our bridge shape. So we're going to hold it here. Make sure your neck is comfortable. I want the right hip to stay exactly where it is. It's not going to move at all. The left hip, however, is going to dip down by like 2 to 3 centimeters towards the floor. So you will have twisted the spine and rotated your pelvis, so your pelvis is a little bit skew. From there, we're going to keep the rotation so that as you now roll down, you're going to be rolling down along the left-hand side of your spine, trying to keep the right-hand side of your spine lifted off the mat as you come down. Eventually, as your pelvis starts to touch the mat, you can start to center the pelvis again and rock back into the center in a neutral position. If you went a little skew on the mat, just adjust so that you're back in the middle, because we're going to roll up through the center of the spine. Breathe in, exhale, tuck, lift, and peel up into your bridge. So now it will be the other side. Left hip stays, right hip dips down by 2 to 3 centimeters. Take a breath and roll down, still in the middle of the mat, but along the right-hand side of the spine. So I'm not drifting to the side of the mat, but I'm trying to keep the left-hand side of the spine off the mat until right at the end of the movement, and then you can rock your pelvis back through to the center. Ready for our last one. Breathe in. And actually, before we do our last one, while you're still on the mat, just do a quick check that where you have your feet is a good placement for you to be able to lift up onto your toes and to be able to lift your toes up off the mat, so essentially lift up onto your heels. If you're struggling, you might just want to adjust the position of your feet so that you've got that movement of your ankle joint, because we're going to be adding that onto your last pelvic curl. So let's take a breath. Exhale, tuck the pelvis, lift and peel our way up to come into bridge. Once you're in your bridge, a little bit of pressure in the arms. Make sure the back of the neck is lengthened. So just tuck the chin in so there's no pressure in the neck. Now the height of the hips is going to stay consistent, but I'm going to try and hold my hips physically with my hands. So you can bend the elbows to lift your hands up onto your hip bones. And because we want to actually hold the sides of the hips to keep them still, you might have to slide your elbows out a little bit wider on the mat to get your hands to hold on physically to the sides of your hips so that you can use your arms to keep your hips in place. Use your legs as well, but your arms are just helping you. And then from there, I'm going to keep that position with the arms and the hips, and I'm going to lift my left heel off the mat, just the left heel. So I'm coming up onto the toes of my left foot. Then I'm going to dig my right heel into the mat to do the opposite action with the right foot. So the toes of the right foot are going to curl up off the floor. So my feet are doing two different things. Then land the feet back down again and we'll switch so that you come up onto your right toes and your left heel. It takes a bit of coordination. The hips are not moving, but the knees will have to go up and down slightly because of the movement with your ankle. And then they'll come back down and try to make it almost a smooth rolling from the heel to the toe, or from the toe to the heel, depending on which side you're doing. And they roll through the center and they switch. As you start to build up confidence with the coordination, you might be able to go a little bit faster and switch. And switch, but keep it controlled. And if you're struggling with the coordination, go slow. Let's do 3 more, each ankle doing each movement, and switch. And 2 more each side. Remember, we're keeping those hips lifted, the breath flowing. You can do 1 more each side. Roll through those heels. Then land the feet flat down onto the floor again. Release the hands and bring your arms back down onto the floor beside you, palms facing down. Hips will stay, and we're going to curl both sets of toes up off the mat. So your ankles are doing the same thing. They are flexing. The heels are digging into the floor. They're going to stay like that, and we're going to squeeze the glutes to do teeny tiny pulses with your hips lifting a little higher to the ceiling for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then land your toes back onto the floor so that your feet have all the grip on the mat and your arms can become light. We're going to float the arms up to the ceiling and then back onto the floor behind you as you roll down slowly through your spine, so that we can land back to neutral with the hands resting on the floor behind you. And then we'll float the arms back up to face the ceiling. Turn the palms to face in towards each other. Keep your neutral shape to your spine though. So I've got a little bit of curve under the lower back as I float the right leg into tabletop. So 90-degree bend in the knee with your knee above your hip before you really stabilize now. So use your abdominals, kind of contract around your waist, and then peel your left foot off the mat as well and lift your left leg up to join your right one in tabletop. We're going to squeeze those legs together and then open the arms out into a T position. So palms facing up, arms out in line with your body. If you don't have space at home for your arms to reach out like that, rather take the arms a little bit lower than your shoulders. So in a low V position, then take them above the line of your shoulders. For your spine twist, I'm going to keep the shoulder blades super glued against the mat as we start to tilt the pelvis towards the right to peel your left hip up off the mat, twisting the spine, and then keep the legs squeezing together as you bring it back through the center. And we inhale to go over to the other side. And center. So you can twist as far as you can go that the shoulder blade stays down. There might be a little bit of movement in the rib cage. Inhale as you twist. Use the exhale breath to bring it back through the center and go 1 more time each way. Imagine that you had been super glued onto the mat and there's resistance. You've got to pull yourself off the mat and then it brings you back. That stickiness of the mat brings you back through to the center. Then pause in the center and lift your arms up to face the ceiling again, palms facing each other. Try to keep the broadness of your shoulder blades into the mat though. That is going to be now your only sort of super glue against the mat because we don't have the arms involved anymore. And spine twist again. So you're going to tilt the pelvis towards the right. Don't go too far or you might end up rolling off to the side. And then bring it back to the center. So only going as far as you know you have the control to bring it back again. You can go one more time each way. The arms shouldn't be moving at all. They're just staying facing the ceiling. After your last one, bring it back to the center, your legs in tabletop. Turn the palms of your hands to face towards your knees and then stretch your arms all the way back behind you as far as your shoulders will allow. So we're aiming to get the arms or the hands, back of the hands to touch the floor, but they don't have to. And then arms are going to float back up over the chest as you breathe in. Exhale, we're going to come up into a chest lift, so into a hundreds prep. I am trying to lift so high that my lower back starts to touch the mat. If your lower back is not touching the mat, just tuck your tail in a little bit to get the glue of the lower back against the mat before we straighten the legs towards the ceiling. And then you will lower them down about halfway, but really only going as low as you know you can keep your lower back against the mat. Then bend the knees to tabletop and reverse the movement with your spine. So we'll go down shoulders, head, and then the arms go back. Arms lift, inhale. Exhale into hundreds prep. Lower back touches the mat. Your legs are going to shoot straight out to the position that you found that your back was comfortable in, and bend and reverse. So they don't have to go as low as mine. They could perhaps stay facing more towards the ceiling if you need that support for your back. We've got 3 more. Arms up and curl up. Shoot the legs out. Draw them back in. Lengthen the spine to neutral. Stretch your arms back. 2 more times. Curl up. Shoot the legs out. Drawing it back in again and arms go back. This is our last one. You're going to float the arms up. Shoot the legs out and then stay lifted and just bring the legs into tabletop to grab the back of your thighs. So now I'm using my arms to help me get a little bit more height with my chest. We are nearly done with abs, I promise, but you're going to stay here. Keep the back against the mat as you interlace your fingers and bring them behind your head. Try to keep the lift of your chest. We are going to rotate the chest over to the left and then lengthen your right leg out on a 45-degree angle. Bring everything back through the center and switch. So as you rotate to the right, your left leg is going to reach out. Inhale, center. Exhale, rotate. And we switch. And we switch. Keep the elbows wide as you switch. And keep the hips still. And a switch. 2 more each side. And a switch. 1 more each side and a switch, and then you're going to bring it back to the center. Take your arms forward to grab the back of your, the top of your knees, and then rest down on the mat and hug your knees in towards you in a little rest position, little recovery position. We're going to stay holding the legs and just gently rock your legs from side to side, or rock your body from side to side. So you're kind of rubbing the lower back and the pelvis into the mat. It should feel comfortable. If it doesn't, you can just stay hugging the knees in instead of doing the rock. Then we're going to open the knees slightly to bring the hands behind the back of the thighs. Curl your head up to look at your knees and then give yourself a little bit of a roll and some momentum to come up to sitting. So now in our seated shape, we're going to go into forward spine stretch. You want to be able to sit upright with your legs out in front of you. If you struggle to get your spine straight, this is where we're going to grab onto something to sit on. So you can sit just on a towel if you only need a little bit of lift, but if you need a bit more lift, you could sit on a cushion, or if you're lucky enough to have a yoga block at hand, you could sit on a yoga block. Then I'm going to bring the arms out in front. So we've opened the legs out a little bit wider than your hips, kind of about mat width apart, and I'm trying to lengthen up tall through the spine. If the hamstrings or the back of the legs are a bit tight, bend your knees a little bit, just a soft bend just to take the pressure out of the hamstrings. From there, we'll take a breath in and exhale to dive forward and through the legs, as far as your back will allow. If you're struggling to get forward, I would suggest, again, sitting on something or bending the knees, or perhaps finding a combination of the two so that you can get forward over your mat, because we're going to stay here. And we're going to soften the right elbow and then place your right hand flat down on the mat. So the palm of my hand is just resting gently onto the mat, so that the left arm can stay straight and start to lift to be in line with your left ear. Keeping the shoulders away from your ears, so think shoulder blades down the back. Start to press into your right hand and then twist yourself to look towards the left-hand side of the room underneath that left armpit. So your left arm will rotate with you. Then come back through the center to look at your mat again and switch your arms. Place the left hand down, bring the right arm up. My palm is rotated in towards my head, and we're going to rotate open towards the right-hand side of the room. Breathe in as you do that. Exhale to come back to the center. Once you're looking at your mat again, we're going to release both of the hands just off the mat, turn the palms to face each other, and try to lean a little bit further forward with your spine as you breathe in. Then exhale, we'll roll all the way back up to build a straight column with your spine. Imagine there's a wall behind you. You're lengthening against that imaginary wall. Take a breath and let's go again. We're going to dive forward with the spine. Reaching long through the spine but keeping the shoulders relaxed. Place your right hand flat on the mat. Lift the left arm up as you inhale, twist towards the left. Push slightly into that right hand that's on the mat to help you twist. Exhale, move through the center to switch the arms. Lift the right one and inhale to rotate towards the right. Then we'll come back through the center. Both hands to the mat. Release your hands just off the mat. Turn the palms to face each other as you breathe in. And let's roll all the way back up. You're trying to build your spine just above your sitting bones. So I'm resting on my sitting bones. We go one more time. A little flex through the ankles as well, just so that you get that hamstring stretch. Breathe in and dive forward. So we're looking for a combination of legs and back stretching out here. Then place the right hand down and rotate towards the left. So I'm using my back extensors to try to open up along the left-hand side. Rotate with your rib cage. Then come back to the center, switch the arms, and inhale, let's go the other way. Move through the center, come back to the center. Move through the center, just come back to the center. Then lift the hands, palms face each other. Breathe in to try to go a little further forward in that forward fold. And then restack your spine all the way up nice and tall. From our seated position, we're going to relax the arms, bring the legs out in front, and then if you are sitting on something, move whatever you're sitting on off to the side. And then we're going to have two straight legs out in front of us. And I'm going to slide my hands back with the fingers facing back behind me so that I can rest on my arms. Then lengthen up through the spine. Think about having a plank against your spine. So it's basically a neutral spine, just the angle at your hip has opened up a little wider than 90. Then try to become light on your hands. I know it's counterintuitive. You want to lean into your arms because they're there. But think about, again, that feeling of resting on water. So you can't sink too hard into the floor with your hands. We're going to keep the back like that. The legs are dead straight, reaching out in front of you. And then the right leg is going to become light so that we can lift from the right hip flexor for that leg to go up towards the ceiling as high as you can get it to go, that you don't have to move your back. And then gently lower it down. If you struggle with this exercise, take your hands a little bit further back. The further back your body goes, the easier it's going to be for your hip flexor to lift the leg. So we're sticking with the right leg. Exhale as you lift. Make sure it's a straight leg. You're shooting energy out through your toes. And back down. And 4 more. And we lift. And down you go as high as you can. Maybe you can go higher than me. And 3. Or maybe you don't go as high. Also fine. 2 more. And your last one. Then let's lower the right leg. Make sure your back is still nice and straight. Your hands are resting on water. And then the left leg is going to have a turn. And it's a fresh leg. See how high it can go. And down. Exhale, lift. I want you to support your spine with your core muscles. Imagine you're wearing a corset. There's no room for movement around your waist. Last 3. And down. And 2. down, and the last one, lift. And we'll lower the leg back down again. So we've got 2 straight legs. Then from here, you might want to take your hands a little bit further back. So you're welcome to do that if you find that you need to. I'm going to give you another modification as well in a moment, but let's all try it like this first. So stay as you are, and then bend your knees to about 90 to slide your feet towards you so they're resting on the mat. Then again, we're going to try to keep our back straight. So now it's hip flexors and abdominals that are going to help you float your feet up off the floor. So they're going to lift together and then lower together. They don't have to go high. They lift and they lower. If you're struggling here and your feet are just not wanting to lift off the mat, lower down onto your elbows. And that's going to give you a little bit more power from your abdominals and your hips. Okay, so I've lowered down. You're welcome to do that, but if you were happy on your hands, stay on your hands and give it a try from there. Lift and tap. Make sure it's not a flinging movement. So once you've chosen either elbows or hands, we're going to do 5 more. It's a careful, controlled lift and tap. And 4 more. Exhale, lift and tap. Eyes looking forward for 3. And a 2. And the last one, a lift and tap. And then we'll come off the hands or the elbows wherever you were, straightening the legs out in front of you. So now we'll go into your normal back support position with your hands, which is going to be 3 steps back, more or less, with your hands behind you. I've got my fingers facing out to the sides of the room. Hands are about shoulder width apart, but you're welcome to take them a little bit wider, especially if you find that your shoulders or your wrists are straining, you can go a little bit wider. The important thing for me here is that you're able to keep your back straight and your arms straight. Then I'm going to cross my right ankle on top of my left knee, just the ankle of my right leg, so I'm not squeezing the thighs together. Then I'll bend the left knee to slide my left foot onto the mat. So that's going to push your right foot up and you end up with this little figure 4 position with your legs. If you're struggling to get your foot onto the mat, take your hands a little bit further back and it'll give you more room to bring the foot in towards you. You're going to flex through your right ankle, so the foot that's in the air is flexed, curling the toes upwards towards the knee, and then grip into your left foot. So it's a single leg back support. I'm going to push into that left foot, press through the arms, and then keeping the back straight, let's lift the hips off the floor and then gently back down. You don't have to lift as high as I did. It could just be a little lift. Exhale as you lift, but if you can go all the way to turn yourself into a little reverse table, go for it. Gently down. Let's go one more time. Exhale, strong through the arms, strong through that left leg, and then lower the hips back to the floor. We're going to slide that left leg back out, straighten it out so that you can comfortably take your right leg off, and then we'll switch. So I'm going to place left ankle on the right knee, slide that right foot in onto the mat so that you can grip through the foot, flex your left ankle, take a breath to prepare, and then let's hinge up. As you go up, your eye line is going to move with you. So from looking forward when your bum touches the mat, as you press up, your eyes will start to lift towards the top corner of the room. And gently down, we've got one more. Exhale as you lift. And inhale gently down. Then you can straighten out that leg again to take your ankle off, or just take your ankle off if you can. For 2 straight legs, arms coming out in front, we are going to get ready for some roll-ups. So if you don't need support for a roll-ups, you don't have to add the towel, but if you want to add a towel for some support in your lower back, you'll see I've placed it about 1 hand's distance away from my bum. So I've got a little bit of space there so that when you roll back, the towel is in the curve of your lower back. All right. 2 straight legs, squeeze them together, arms out in front with the palms facing each other. Lengthen through your spine first, become light on your inhale, and then we're going to curl slightly forward over the hips just to create the rounded shape of the spine. So now I'm looking more towards my feet, and we're going to roll just 1/4 of the way back. So just start to roll off the back edge of your sitting bone. So if you have a towel, you won't touch the towel yet. It needs to be somewhere that you can hold it. Shoulders are relaxed, and I'm going to stay here. Use those lower abdominals for support. Turn the left hand so that the palm of your hand is facing up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to reach that arm back behind you and you're going to look at the hand as it stretches for the wall behind you. Then exhale, come back through the center and we'll go the other way. So right hand is going to flip to face the ceiling. Look at your hand and stretch it back. Come back through to the center. Let's pause in the center. Take another breath. And now we will roll all the way down through the spine. Hold on to one of your thighs. You can lift one leg up if you need some support. Then once you're down, let go of the leg if you were holding onto a leg. Head rests down and the arms will stretch back behind you with the palms still facing in towards each other. Then arms lift. Inhale to a chest lift again to look at your toes. And let's peel up using a thigh if you need to until you're back in that little forward curve just over the hips. I'm still actively drawing in through my abdominals here though. This isn't a relaxed position. Take a breath in and go back to your little quarter of a roll back just off the edge of the sitting bones for our rotation. So we're going to go left hand faces the ceiling, sweep it back. Inhale, rotate as far as you can. Exhale to bring it back in. Then we go the other way. Inhale, rotate. Exhale, come back to the center, looking towards your toes. Take another breath and then roll the rest of the way down into your mat. Vertebra for vertebra. Once your head is down, take the arms back. So once you're lying on the mat, you're back in a neutral spine. We're going to repeat the whole thing one more time. Arms lift, inhale, chest lift. Exhale, peels you up off of your mat to lean just forward over your hips. Take a breath. And then go just off the back edge of your sitting bones as we go for those twists. Left arm is going to reach back on your inhale breath. Exhale to face forward again and then going the other way. Inhale, twist. And center for the last time. One more breath and then going down slowly through the spine into your mat, one vertebra at a time. Once you're down, finish the movement by stretching your arms back behind you. And then we will stay down on our mats and just come to lie on our sides. So if you had a towel under your lower back, just move it out the way. And then roll around to lie on your side. So we're going to set up for your clams. So I've got both of my knees bent to about 90-degree bend at the back of the knee. And then the spine, the sitting bones, and the feet are all in one straight line. So if you had a wall behind you, place an imaginary wall there. Your back would be touching against that wall, and so would your feet. So they're all on the same stripe. Hips are neatly stacked, one on top of the other. And I'm drawing in through the abdominals, eyes looking straight out in front of you. I'm going to keep my top hand holding onto my hip, at least for the first one, just so that you know that your hip isn't moving. As we squeeze the heels together and open the top knee up towards the ceiling as high as you can get it to go that the hip doesn't move. And then gently bring it back down to touch the bottom leg. Exhale as you lift. So as you go up, you're going to have to squeeze the glute to get that rotation and then gently down. Let's do 6 more. If you find it uncomfortable with your hand on your hip, you can put the hand on the mat in front of your chest. But just be mindful that the hip bone doesn't start to roll backwards. Exhale, lift. Inhale, down. Let's go for your last 2. And down. Remember, you're trying to go to your maximum height. Last one. And down. Oh, I lied to you. Now one more. And down. So we're going to keep the hips as they are and just straighten out your right leg now. Right leg, top leg. Your top leg is going to be straight. Your bottom leg stays in clam. So that top leg is now in line with your body. So you're a straight stripe running from your heel up to your ear. I'm going to keep the hand on the hip just for the first movement as I lift the top leg up a little bit higher than my hip height. We're going to flex through the ankle and think about the heel trying to reach away from you. Now the spine and the hip will not move, but you can place your hand gently on the mat in front of your chest to help you with balance as we hinge from that top hip to bring your leg forward like you want to see your own toes. Then hinge backwards to bring the leg back in line with your body, heel reaching away from you. Exhale as the leg comes forward. The only thing that is moving is your hip, that joint in your hip swinging forward and back. Keep the height of your leg consistent for another 4 and back, and exhale for another 3 and back. And the last 2, and back. And one more time, exhale, forward and back. Once your leg is back in line with your body, it's going to stay there. Try to keep that feeling of reach all the way through to the heel. Heel is reaching away from your ear. And then we're going to press the leg up towards the ceiling by like 3 to 5 centimeters. So a little upwards hinge in your hip socket, and then back down. Exhale, lift, and back to your starting position for another 4. And down, and 3. Keeping that breath flowing, 2. And the last one, press up. And then you can lower the leg all the way down towards the floor. And let's roll over to do the other side. So you can either take your legs to the other side of the mat or just roll over to face the other side of the room. Starting in your clams. So both legs bent to 90. Head is resting comfortably on your bottom arm. You're welcome to bend your bottom arm if your shoulder doesn't like your arm being straight out like that underneath your head. Then I'm going to physically hold my hip, at least for the first one. Draw your abdominals in as though the bottom front of your rib cage is being pulled downwards towards your hip bones. So there's a connection along that front line of the body to keep you nice and stable as we rotate the top knee up towards the ceiling into your clam. And back down, and it might be different on a different side. Maybe one side goes higher than the other, and down. And we go for 6 more. We squeeze. Every time you lift, you're fighting to get a little bit more rotation, and down. And your last 4, keep the squeeze of the heels as if you're actually trying to hold something between your heels. And your last 2, relaxing the neck and the shoulders. Let's go for 1 more. Lift. Then you can lower it back down, and we'll straighten that top leg out along the floor so that it's in line with your body. Lift your top leg up a little bit higher than hip height, flexing through the ankle. You can either keep your hand on your hip, or if you need it for balance, we pop it onto the mat in front of the chest as you hinge forward from your hip to bring your leg forward to look at your toes. And then hinge back to bring your leg back in line with your body. And forward. If there was a wall against your back, you would be staying against that wall. The only thing that's moving away from the wall is the leg. For another 4, and back. And 3, keep your breath flowing, and back. And 2, and 1 more. Remember that reach through to the heel. Bring the leg back in line with your body. Reach the heel away from you, which might actually move your hip a little bit if you really reach, if you're lucky. And then we press the leg up by 3 to 5 centimeters. It presses up to the ceiling, and down, and up, and down. Going for another 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. And then you can lower the leg all the way down to the floor. And let's push up to come onto our knees. So I'm going to be in a kneeling position. You don't have to be on a side on the way I am, but you want to have one knee bent and one leg straight. If you feel that the knee that's on the mat needs more support, I would suggest either folding your mat up so that you've got a double up on your mat, or you can put a towel or something underneath your knee to make it a little bit softer. Because we're going to be leaning onto that knee. Straight leg is out, and that leg is in line with where your knee is on the mat. The bend of the bottom leg is a straight bend, so you'll see that you can't even see my foot. My foot is directly behind my knee. Hips are facing forward. Arms are in a T position with your palms facing up, keeping the shoulders relaxed. Now imagine that you had a glass wall or a glass window in front of your body, and at this point, everything is stuck onto that same glass window. Both of your hips, your chest, your nose is all stuck onto that window, and you're going to stay on the window, but you're going to glide your body out to the side until it feels like your spine is in line with your straight leg. Then we'll hold it there. Your body doesn't move as you hinge from your shoulders to bring your arms up, trying to bring them up in line with your ears. Then we'll open the arms back out to a T and lift yourself back up over your bent knee. So inhale as you lean out. Make sure your hips stay facing straight forward or against your imaginary glass window. Float the arms up, open them, and lift. So I'm lifting from my waist to come up, not flinging myself up. 3 more. Inhale. As the arms go up, I'm sure you'll notice you get a little bit more load on your obliques, on the side of your abdominals. Last 2. Inhale. Exhale, arms up. Open the arms and lift. And one more time. Inhale over to the side. Lift the arms up with control. Open your arms back to T. And then bring your body back up over your knee. And we'll switch the legs. So if you need support for your knees, you can switch it over to the other knee. Hips are facing straight forward, like little headlights facing the front. And then we'll take the arms out to T, palms facing up. Your straight leg stays super glued on the mat. So that foot is on the mat, it stays there as you lean your body. So it's all about the movement in your waist. Then the arms float up, ideally in line with your ears or as close to as possible. Open the arms out and lift back over your bent knee. Inhale as we go to the side. Exhale as those arms come up, and then we lift back up. And I managed to get myself nicely placed in my little panda ears on my logo behind me. Let's go for 3 more. Inhale. And arms up. Use the waist for control as you come back over your bent knee. Last 2. And I'm still thinking about lengthening my spine here. I'm not collapsed. I'm lengthening. I'm just leaning off to the side. 1 more time. As you lean, remember to keep your bottom hip facing forward. Slowly bring the arms up and then open them out and lift yourself back up over your bottom knee. Relaxing your arms. Let's come around onto hands and knees. Hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Spreading the weight out through the palms of your hands. Take a breath in, and then we're going to... I'm going to do that whole wrist supporty thing again, but you guys know the drill there. So just start with your neutral spine, breathe in, and then round into your cat stretch. Eyes dropping to look towards the thighs. Lengthen back out again to a long neutral shape. Let's do 2 more. And lengthen out. And 1 more time. Then from there, we're going to come down to lie on our tummies, just like I am doing there in that little picture that you can see. So legs are hip width apart. Arms are down in a low V position. So I've got the palms of my hands facing down, thumbs rotating to face out to the sides of the room, and my elbows are very, very straight. So take a moment in the setup to feel that you're nicely centered, that you've got equal pressure on your hips, that your head is in the middle of your mat. And then we're going to roll the shoulder blades back and down. The hands are going to start to feel light on the floor so that as you inhale to lengthen for the head and the chest to lift, your arms will also lift up, and then try to lift your arms a little bit higher than your hips. So I'm actually lifting those arms and pressing them up to the ceiling. And then exhale everything back down, including the arms, to just tap onto the floor. Inhale, lift, taking the arms up towards the ceiling behind you, and exhale back down. And 4 more. As you come up, make sure you're not craning your neck. You're just letting your neck move with your spine, and then back down. Last 3. Inhale. Beautiful straight arms. The legs, however, are staying down. They don't move. They stay on the mat. 2 more. Inhale. Lift. And exhale down. And we've got 1 more. Keep the chest nice and open. Lift the arms like you're flying. And then exhale to bring everything back down. We're going to bend our arms to come into a narrow goalpost position. So similar to where we were before in our warm-up, but now a little bit narrower. Then I'm going to open the legs out a little bit wider than my hips towards the outer edges of the mat. Turn the knees to face outwards slightly, so a little bit of external rotation. Your hands will be slightly higher than your shoulders on the mat, but I do want the forearms and the elbows to be able to touch the floor. So if they're not touching the floor, you can take your arms a little bit wider to give yourself some space. Draw your tummy muscles in and up, roll the shoulder blades back and down. Then grip with your hands and your forearms into the mat to start with. As you start to lengthen through the spine, the head and the chest are going to start to rise. You're going to pull forward and through with your arms, and then keep pressing through the arms until you feel your elbows and your rib cage just starting to float off the mat. And then just reverse back down again. Elbows and rib cage touch the mat, and then the rest of the spine comes down. Visualize a big Pilates ball resting on your back. So you're trying to lift yourself up and over that ball. So a nice smooth articulation through the back of your neck as your head rises, through your upper back, through your mid back, and a little bit of push into the arms. And then back down. So it is definitely a little bit of a push-up. You need to use your arms. Keep your shoulders away from your ears. 4 more. Inhale, rise. Press through the arms. And exhale back down. Last 3. Inhale, rise. Just hovering the elbows and back down. And let your head move with your spine. It is the top of your spine. It's going to be the highest point as you come up. And back down till your nose almost touches the mat. And your last 1. Inhale, extend, draw the shoulder blades down, come up over your invisible ball. And then exhale all the way back down till your nose almost touches the floor. Then let's stay here and just walk the legs in towards each other so that your legs can now be touching together on the mat behind you. Still want that little bit of external rotation, so focus on your heels squeezing together and your knees rotating outwards slightly. It's very small, it's not a big rotation, but the legs are straight. Draw in through the abdominals again. You're going to keep your head where it is, but reach through your legs. Make your legs feel so straight that they start to float up off the floor. So the heels, well, the feet and the knees are just starting to lift up off the floor. Try to keep the little lift of the knees. That's the squeeze of the bum cheeks. So I'm using my glutes actively here. And then we're going to go into what is called beats. So it's a clapping together of your heels, but it's not just the heels that are moving. Of course, it has to be the whole leg that's moving for these little claps. And it's quite a quick movement, the clapping of the legs. So tiny little opening of the legs, like maybe 2 to 3 centimeters, and then clap the heels together for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and again for 10. Keep your breath flowing. And again for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you want to lift a little higher with the chest on the last one for 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's pause with your legs squeezing together. If you haven't already tried to lift the chest a little bit higher, try to get a little bit more pride through the chest, pushing through the arms slightly as you inhale. And then exhale, everything can come down to the floor, and we'll push ourselves back into our rest position, taking the sitting bones back towards the heels. Rest your head anywhere that feels comfortable. Hold there for 2 deep breaths, expanding through your rib cage. And then we're going to curl forward to come and be on your hands and your knees again. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips for your thread the needle stretch. So you're going to lean your weight into one of your hands. The free hand is going to lift, palm facing up. It's going to slide just past the inside of your wrist. As you bend the arm that you're leaning into, you're going to keep sliding your hand along the floor until you come down onto your shoulder and the side of your head. So you'll be twisted looking to one side of the room, like you're trying to reach for something underneath the bed. Both of the knees stay planted, and I'm going to push down into the hand that's still on the mat to try to twist myself to look a little bit more up towards the ceiling. So it's a deep twist. Hold it there for a breath, looking at the ceiling. And then use the hand that's on the mat to push yourself back up onto all fours. And we'll go the other way. So you're going to lean into the other hand. Your free hand threads just past the inside of your wrist until you can come down onto your shoulder and the side of your head. Press into the arm that's on the floor to help you twist up towards the ceiling. Take a breath, and then let's use that arm to push all the way back up again, back onto hands and knees, and then slide the legs back out again so that you can lower yourself down onto your tummy. One more time. We're going to go hands underneath the forehead this time. So I've got one hand on top of the other with my hands under where my head would rest on the floor. Legs out straight and squeezing together. So I've got those heels together. Tummy muscles in. I'm going to push slightly through my arms so that my head is just lifted to look just over the top of my hands. But if that's not comfortable for your back, you can actually let your head rest on top of your hands if you want to, because we're going to focus mostly on the legs. So we're going to reach through the legs again, make them super straight just like we did previously for the beats. They're lifting off the mat and they're still squeezing together. Now keep the lift under the bottom of the knees as if there's a little trail of ants walking underneath your knees. Don't squash your ants, but start to bend your knees. We're going to try to keep them squeezing together as they bend. You want to bend to about 90, so until your toes are facing the ceiling. And then we'll straighten the legs back out slowly again, but they're still lifted. As you bend your knees, they might open up a little bit. That's okay. Just try to keep them squeezing together as close as possible and then straighten them back out. Let's do 4 more. Exhale as they bend. Inhale as they reach. And 3 more. And reach. And 2 more. And straighten the legs out. Let's go one more time. And straightening those legs all the way out. Then I'm going to lower the legs down to come up onto hands and knees again. So push yourself up. And then just slide your hands towards your knees so that you can roll up through your spine onto high knees, like a roll up, except we're on our knees instead of on our feet. And then we'll bring the head forward again and just reverse. So round your spine, roll forward towards the floor till your hands can lightly touch the mat. Breathe in and start to tuck the tailbone in, press the hips forward and roll your way back up again onto high knees. Once we're on high knees, we're going to take a step forward with one of your feet so that you're in a little kneeling lunge, like you're about to propose, and then tuck your toes in behind you. Try to do this hands-free, but use your hands if you're worried that you're going to fall, as we just lunge all the way up to standing. And then once you're standing, we're going to come to stand side on. So I would stand side on your mat for this one because we want to take the legs out nice and wide. I've got the toes a little bit wider than the heels. So this is going to be an inner thigh stretch. So that's why we've got the legs wide, wider than you would have them for a squat. And then we're going to bring the head forward and roll or melt your spine down towards the floor. Once you've gone as low as you feel comfortable, we're going to take the hands onto the legs. So right hand holds your right leg, left hand holds your left leg, wherever you can comfortably grip. Maybe it's your ankles, maybe it's your calves. And then you're going to pull slightly with your arms to pull yourself forward towards your legs, as if you want to look between your legs towards the wall behind you. Hold it for 2 breaths. Then we're going to let the knees start to bend. Slide your hands up on top of your thighs, so my palms are pressing into the top of my knees, and I'm going to push myself so that my head and my chest comes up to look out in front. From there, we're going to sink the bum down towards the floor, push the knees out so that your knees are over your feet or as close to as possible, and then just imagine that you're sitting down into a little chair here. I'm using my arms for support. I'm definitely leaning into the arms, and we're just going to sway gently left and right, stretching out the hips and the inner thighs. Can sway one more time each way. And then we'll just reverse. So to come out of it, my head will go forward, my hips will go up towards the ceiling, the hands will go back down towards the floor, back in your starting position. Soften the knees, take a breath, and then roll your way up through your spine. Feel free to use your hands on your legs to help support you as you come up until we're standing. And then I'm going to do a little dance move. I'm going to bring the toes in towards each other. And then the heels in towards each other, and the toes and the heels. And you're just going to keep going until you feel like you've got your feet hip width and parallel in our starting position. Before we inhale, take the arms up to the ceiling. Exhale, arms back down. Bring your head forward, soften into your knees, and go for your last roll down towards the mat. Neck nice and long. Take a breath. And then let's just roll back up again, keeping the neck long. So the last thing to lift will be your head, and then we are standing tall, and we're all done with today's session. Well done, and thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed it.